The ultimatum. High Arbiter Vostek's 6 appendages trembled as he reviewed the message for the 5th time. The great chamber of the Galactic Federation fell silent as the 200 representatives from across the known universe waited. The massive crystal dome above them reflected the light of 3 suns, casting prismatic patterns across the assembly. "The humans have responded," Vostek announced finally, his voice amplification system carrying his words to every corner of the chamber. "They have refused our terms." The chamber erupted into chaos. The gelatinous Meroxian delegation immediately hardened into defensive crystalline formations. The normally stoic Zentari representatives released harmonics so discordant that several sensitive species had to activate auditory dampeners. "Impossible," shouted Premier Calder of the hegemony, rising from his gravity chair. "Every species negotiates when confronted with overwhelming force. It is the fundamental principle upon which galactic diplomacy functions." Elder diplomat Serafina Tenera of the ancient Vish collective rose slowly, her scaled skin shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed rare emotional disturbance. "I advised against this approach," she said, her voice carrying the weight of 12 centuries of diplomatic experience. "Humans do not respond to ultimatums as other species do." The confrontation had begun 3 standard cycles earlier when human exploratory vessels expanded into the Procyon sector, a region the Federation had designated as a strategic buffer zone between major powers. The Council had transmitted the standard warning: withdraw immediately or face unified sanctions from the 37 most advanced civilizations in the known galaxy. Every species encountered in the past 8,000 years had responded with immediate diplomatic overtures. Negotiations would follow, concessions would be made, and galactic stability would be maintained. It was the way of things. The humans had simply replied, "No." No counterproposals, no requests for clarification, no diplomatic channels opened, just no. "I fail to comprehend," said the Hydraxian delegate, neural filaments pulsing with confusion. "Their entire civilization could be reduced to pre-industrial capacity within days if we implemented full sanctions. They have no allies powerful enough to intercede on their behalf." Tenera sighed, the sound of ancient patience tested. "You are applying conventional logic to an unconventional species. I have studied humans for nearly 2 centuries. They do not calculate risk and reward as we do." She activated the central hologram, displaying Earth's historical records. 27 times in their history, humans have faced opponents with overwhelming technological, numerical, or resource advantages. 21 times, they have emerged victorious through means that defied conventional strategic analysis. The chamber grew quiet as images flashed by. Primitive humans defeating mechanized armies, small nations overcoming superpowers, impossible last stands that somehow succeeded. Most concerning, Tenera continued, humans become more unified and determined when threatened. Unlike rational species that recognize inevitable defeat, humans often refuse to acknowledge mathematical certainties. "What are you suggesting?" Vostek asked, mandibles clicking with anxiety. "That we misunderstand them fundamentally. They aren't refusing to negotiate because they believe they'll win. They're refusing because they believe negotiation itself is surrender, and they would rather face extinction." The security director's sensory appendages suddenly flared. "Alert! Human vessels have been detected approaching all 37 of our homeworlds simultaneously." The display shifted to show small, apparently unarmed human ships entering orbit around various planets. "This is madness," whispered Calder. "They're sending single vessels against our planetary defense networks." "Scan them," ordered Vostek. After a moment, the security director's voice trembled. "Each ship contains a single human diplomat." A new message appeared on the central display. "The United Earth Government acknowledges the Federation's concerns regarding Procyon sector. However, we reject your approach. Instead of withdrawal or sanctions, we propose direct, simultaneous bilateral discussions with each member civilization individually. Your artificial consensus does not impress us. We already know 9 of your members secretly support our presence in Procyon. Let's discuss matters honestly, one-on-one, without the pretense of Federation anonymity. You have 8 hours to agree, or we will make the content of our diplomatic discussions public to your citizens. Tenera nodded slowly. And there it is. They've identified our weakness, the Federation's fragile consensus, and moved to exploit it directly. They're not refusing to negotiate. They're refusing to negotiate on our terms. The chamber descended into frantic private communications as each delegation suddenly realized the humans had likely learned their confidential positions. How should we respond? Vostok asked desperately. Tenera's ancient eyes held something like respect. We negotiate, of course. But understand this. From this day forward, the galactic balance has fundamentally changed. The humans have shown they understand our politics better than we understand theirs. But the Procyon sector remains critical to Federation security, objected Calder. We cannot simply allow humans to remain. Perhaps, said Security Director Vexlor, mandibles clicking rapidly, we should demonstrate our resolve. A limited military action against one of their outlying colonies would show we are serious. Tenera's bioluminescent patterns flashed warning colors. You propose violence against a species that views retreat as unthinkable. I strongly advise against this. Vostok hesitated, caught between tradition and uncertainty. The Federation has never backed down from an ultimatum in 8,000 years. Our credibility. Incoming transmission, interrupted the communications officer. From all human ships simultaneously. The central hologram flickered, and a single human appeared. A female with dark skin and silver-streaked hair, wearing a simple blue uniform devoid of ornamentation. I am Admiral Helena Chen, representing United Earth, she said calmly. We understand the Federation's concern for stability. However, we also understand that 9 of your members have privately expressed interest in technology exchanges with Earth. 3 have already proposed security alliances. Gasps echoed throughout the chamber as delegations glanced accusingly at one another. You see, Chen continued, humans excel at information gathering. We learned your languages before you detected us. We mapped your political divisions, your resource dependencies, your internal conflicts. She leaned forward slightly. We don't want conflict. But understand this, humanity will not be restricted to arbitrary boundaries, nor will we be intimidated by threats. We are willing to discuss resource sharing, technological exchange, and security cooperation, but as equals, not subjects. The Federation does not recognize Earth as an equal power, Vostok stated, attempting to maintain authority. Chen smiled. It was not a reassuring expression. That's your first mistake. Equality isn't granted, it's recognized. We've already downloaded comprehensive data packages to each of your homeworlds detailing our proposals for bilateral cooperation. When your citizens see what they stand to gain from relations with Earth, I suspect your unified position will become less unified. Tenera stepped forward. You would bypass our governmental structures. That violates all diplomatic protocols. Your protocols, Chen replied. Not ours. We believe in direct democracy. Your citizens deserve to know what options exist. Before Vostok could respond, alerts began flooding in from member worlds. The human data packages had already gone public, triggering massive information cascades through planetary networks. This is unprecedented, whispered Calder. They're appealing directly to our populations. Tenera's expression was grave. And that, I believe, is why humans are dangerous. Not because of their weapons or technology, but because they think differently. They see vulnerabilities we don't even recognize as vulnerabilities. As the Federation Council descended into disarray, Admiral Chen's final words echoed through the chamber. You have 8 hours to agree to individual negotiations, or we select our allies from those who contact us directly. The age of Federation monopoly on interstellar relations is over. The resolution. 3 standard days later, the Federation Council reconvened in emergency session. The massive chamber, designed to project power and unity, now simmered with suspicion and resentment. Private communications between delegations had been reduced to whispers and handwritten notes. No one trusted electronic systems after the humans' demonstration of their information warfare capabilities. High Arbiter Vostek appeared visibly aged, his exoskeleton duller than it had been days before. "The Council will come to order," he announced, but the underlying tremble in his voice betrayed his uncertainty. 17 member civilizations have already entered bilateral discussions with the humans, reported Security Director Vexlor. 3 have signed preliminary trade agreements. The Procyon sector issue has become secondary to a rush for human technology and cultural exchange. "This is a violation of our most sacred principles," objected Premier Calder. "The Federation has maintained galactic stability for 8 millennia through unity of purpose and action." Elder Diplomat Tinera's bioluminescent patterns pulsed slowly, a unity that was perhaps more fragile than we acknowledge. The humans merely exposed existing fissures. They did not create them. The Federation's fragile consensus had shattered more quickly than anyone anticipated. When the human data packages revealed the extensive secret communications between individual Federation members and Earth, communications that contradicted public Federation policy, citizen protests had erupted on 12 worlds. 6 government officials had already resigned in disgrace. "We must respond with strength," insisted Vexlor. "I propose immediate sanctions against all members engaging in bilateral talks and a naval blockade of the Sol system." A ripple of alarm spread through the chamber. Even suggesting military action against fellow Federation members was unprecedented. Tinera's patterns flashed warning colors. "You propose civil conflict within the Federation, while simultaneously provoking the humans. This would end our 8,000-year peace." Before Vexlor could respond, the communications officer interrupted again. "Priority message from Earth. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, to all worlds simultaneously. We can't block it." The central hologram activated without authorization. Admiral Chen appeared again, this time standing on what appeared to be the bridge of a vessel. "Greetings to all citizens of the Federation," she began. "I speak to you directly because your leaders have chosen isolation over engagement. We've learned that the Federation Security Council is now contemplating military action, not just against Earth, but against your own member worlds who have chosen to speak with us." Vexlor hissed in outrage. How did they access that information? The security session was completely isolated. Chen continued, "To demonstrate humanity's commitment to peaceful cooperation and to show the futility of military options, we are conducting a simple technological demonstration." The hologram split to show multiple views of Federation worlds. On each, at precisely the same moment, every artificial light source briefly flickered and changed color to a soft blue before returning to normal. "For approximately 3 seconds, Chen explained, we temporarily accessed your power distribution systems across 29 worlds. We could have shut them down. We didn't. This was merely to illustrate a point. Conflict with Earth would not proceed as you imagine." The chamber erupted into panic. The ability to remotely affect energy systems across interstellar distances was thought to be theoretically impossible. "This is why," Chen continued as the chaos unfolded, "we propose a new framework for galactic relations, not the forced consensus of the Federation, but a galactic concordat where sovereign civilizations may freely associate and collaborate while maintaining independence." In the midst of the uproar, Tinera approached Vostek. "We must adapt," she said quietly. "The humans have demonstrated capabilities we did not believe possible. More importantly, they've shown a restraint that suggests they genuinely prefer cooperation to conflict. They have humiliated the Federation," Vostek replied bitterly. 8,000 years of tradition and protocol, dismissed in 3 days. "Perhaps," Tinera acknowledged, "but they have also offered an alternative. Their proposed concordat preserves autonomy while creating frameworks for cooperation. It is not without merit." As the debate raged, A junior diplomat from the Terrassi delegation approached Tinera with a secure datapad. "Elder, we analyzed the human power system intervention. They didn't use technology as we understand it." Tinera's patterns shifted to indicate curiosity. "Explain." "They somehow utilized quantum entanglement on a massive scale, something our theoretical physicists have deemed impossible. Their technological development has progressed along entirely different paths than ours." This revelation spread quickly among the scientific advisors present. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't simply advanced along the standard technological progression the Federation had documented across thousands of species. They had taken completely different paths, solving problems in ways no other known civilization had attempted. In the center of the chamber, Premier Kaldar had taken the speaking position. "This is nothing less than extortion. They threaten our infrastructure to force diplomatic concessions. We cannot reward such behavior." "With respect, Premier," Tinera interjected, "they demonstrated capability without causing harm. When the Federation issued its original ultimatum, we implicitly threatened their civilization with destruction if they didn't comply. Who, truly, attempted extortion first?" A murmur of uncomfortable agreement rippled through the chamber. "The humans have exposed weaknesses in our system," Tinera continued. "Perhaps instead of resenting them for it, we should examine why those weaknesses existed. Our unity was apparently maintained through information control and the suppression of dissent, tactics unworthy of our ideals." Admiral Chen's voice cut through the debate. "We await your response, Federation Council. Earth remains open to joining a restructured galactic community, one based on mutual respect rather than coercion. The choice is yours." After her image disappeared, the chamber fell silent for several moments. Finally, Vostek spoke. "I propose we form a special diplomatic commission to evaluate the Human Concordat proposal, with representatives from all member civilizations." "And the Protean sector?" asked Vexlor. "Do we simply abandon our claim?" Tinera's patterns shifted to a calming blue. "Perhaps we negotiate joint development rights. If the humans have technology that can affect power systems across interstellar distances, imagine what else they might contribute. We have maintained stability for 8 millennia, but at what cost to innovation and progress?" As the vote was called, the outcome surprised no one. The Federation would negotiate with humanity on new terms, not from a position of strength, but from one of pragmatic recognition. Later, as the chamber emptied, Tinera found herself in conversation with a young human diplomat who had arrived during the session. "Your Admiral Chen played this situation masterfully," Tinera admitted. "But I'm curious, would Earth truly have published all diplomatic communications if we had refused?" The human smiled. "That's the interesting thing about humanity, Elder Tinera. We don't bluff often, but when we do, we make it indistinguishable from truth. Even I don't know if we would have followed through." "A most unsettling trait," Tinera observed. "Perhaps. But consider this. Had the Federation approached Earth with an offer of friendship rather than an ultimatum, none of this would have been necessary. Humans respond poorly to threats, but remarkably well to sincere offers of cooperation." Tinera's patterns shifted to indicate thoughtful consideration. "A lesson for the future, then. And I suspect there is much more we will learn from each other in the coming centuries." "That," said the human diplomat, "is something we can both agree on without negotiation." As news spread throughout the galaxy of the Federation's change in approach, citizens across countless worlds wondered what this new era might bring. The humans had accomplished in days what dissidents within the Federation had failed to achieve in millennia: a fundamental reassessment of how galactic civilization should function. And on Earth, Admiral Helena Chen looked out at the stars from her office window and allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had secured its place in the galactic community not through superior firepower, but through understanding what the Federation had forgotten. True strength comes not from enforced unity, but from the free association of equals with shared purpose. The stars, once threatening in their vastness, now seemed to hold infinite promise.